What have you got there, Calvin? It looks like a pretty fancy...
It's just keeps it hot so I can sip on it hot, but I tripped twice coming up here.
That's why I take the elevator up.
Yeah.
I walk
was like,
down for Nigla, I walk up, but for this, when I'm carrying my coffee, I always take the elevator up. I don't trust myself anymore.
Someone comes out the door when you're about to go in.
So. Okay, in Vav and Zion, in Vav, I mean, we're just starting Zion, we started it. In Ois Vav, so the Rebbe explained to us that Tfilas Osher isn't of himself, it's for Knesset Yisrael, it's for the Jewish people. Now, Knesset Yisrael obviously has a technical meaning, and that's what we learn in the second paragraph, but in the first paragraph, we learn from the Medrash that Moshe, who's the third one that goes to the king, so he says, I'm not asking for anything for myself. King says, what do you want? He says, I'm not asking anything for myself. He says, there's Medina Plainis, there's a certain city, V'yichareva, and it's broken, V'yishelcha, and it's yours, which we're going to see on footnote 49 on the next page. We talked about it a little bit outside on Thursday, but we'll see it inside. Hishelcha, it's yours. Gezor shetibane, decree that it should be built. Now, simple pshat is that that's what the usher asks for. He's asking for something that someone else needs, not what he needs, because evidently he doesn't need. But the Rebbe asks, why is this necessarily a tefillah of an usher? Anybody could daven this. Anybody could ask this. There's all sorts of nice people in the world who are davening. Lots of people in Chutzlad davening for you over here. Okay. Does that mean that they're not lacking anything? Well, of course they're lacking things, but they also have a place in their heart to daven for someone else. So why is this Dafka Tfilas Osher? That's what the Rebbe asks at the end of the first paragraph in Ois Vav. And the answer is, based on the understanding in Chassidus, as to what it is that the Osher, who's Moshe, what is he davening for? So he's davening Gezor Sheti Bonei. And what the Rebbe explains to us, what does that mean? Not that it should be rebuilt in such a way that it could be destroyed again, but it should be rebuilt in such a way that it will last. Now, what is that all in Ruchnius? What's the Medina? So the Medina, the Rebbe says, is Malchus. Just like it says, Moshe davens for Knesset Yisrael, so Knesset Yisrael is also Malchus. What's that? A repository of energy, of reality, and most often we call it Or. Right? Malchus is the repository of all of the Or, of the spheres above, the 6 midos of what's called Zoh, the small countenance, right? As opposed to Arech Anpin, which means the long countenance. So Zoh is drawn down into Malchus, and Malchus is the repository for all of that light. We say about Malchus, Leis la megar maklum, she has nothing of her own compared to the moon, and Dafka, it's Malchus which has been diminished. Why? Because that's the place in the Eibishter where the revelation that you and I would experience would come from. But you and I do not experience revelation because there's a certain diminution of Malchus. Diminishing of Malchus. And what's that in technical terms? Miyuta Yereach. The moon got small. What does the moon getting small in the whole story of Bereshis mean? Malchus is diminished. Malchus is no longer a source of light. Malchus might reflect light, but no longer a Ma'er Gadol. Starts off with 2 Ma'eres Gedolos, is Bereshis, right? Beginning of the Torah. 2 great lights, luminaries, and one of them is diminished. What does that relate to? The diminishing of Malchus. What does that mean? The concealing of Elokus in Elam Hazeh. That's what it means. Godliness is concealed in this world. Okay, so the usher asks, says there's a Medina. We said Medina is also Malchus from 2 sources. One is Medina means place, and Malchus is the source of space and time, but space. Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimloich, Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimloich, Malchus. Time, past, present, future. And space, Medina. So there's a Medina, and it's broken. What does that mean? Malchus is broken. Malchus isn't revealing light. It isn't revealing godliness. Gezor shetibane, decree that it should be rebuilt. And that rebuilding should be a binyan adeyad. It should be a complete and everlasting edifice. That's how it's translated in wedding invitations. That's the Rebbe's bracha. There's always binyan adeyad. And how does that happen? That happens by the revelation of a light that's beyond Tzimtzum and beyond Siluk. Those are the two words the Rebbe uses. Beyond Tzimtzum, beyond being diminished, and beyond Siluk, beyond disappearing, so to speak. Okay, so there's a level of godly light that's completely beyond that. And what's that? Atzmus Oreinsek, the third level of light that we've been talking about in the Maimon. Right? This is just a freebie that I'm throwing out there, but of course you always throw these things out there to the people who show up regularly, and the people who don't miss it because they're not there when you say it. That's just the way it is. That's why you can't learn a mimer if you show up almost every day. Because you're just going to be missing pieces. You're just not going to understand what's going on. Like, wait a minute, how did we get there? Well, we know there's three levels of light. We spent quite a bit of time back here discussing Mamale, Seiviv, and Atzmus Arinsef, and that Moshe's Atzmus Arinsef. We talked about that a lot. Okay, so with that piece, I can now understand what the Rebbe is saying over here. And that's why the Rebbe explains it over here and not over here. Right? Because without that, I can't understand what I'm learning here. What's Atzmus Ein Sof? A level of godly light beyond any change whatsoever, any diminishing whatsoever, any disappearance whatsoever. Moshe is connected to that level of light. Moshe is the one who can ask for that. He understands and appreciates that that's the level that has to be drawn down to bring about a binyan adayad. And therefore, what question did we answer? Based on that.
Why is it tefillah usher?
Yeah. Why is it tefillah usher? Why does the usher have to be the one davening this? Because only the usher appreciates the fact that there's this reality called Atzmus Ein Sof that were it to be revealed, and that would bring about an everlasting fixing of the level below. The usher is the one who understands that and experiences that and can ask for that. Now, it has to be said that here we are sitting here. We are not a shiur, right? Okay. Hopefully in Gashmias we're a shiur. Ezu Ashir, Sameach Bechelke. That's in Gashmias. Who's the rich one? The one who's happy with his lot. That's in Gashmias, not in Ruchnias. In Ruchnias, if you're happy with your lot, you're poverty-stricken. Oh, I'm happy where I'm holding. Fair. No, I don't understand. So then you should, God forbid. So that's it, it's over, you're just going to close the shop and die now? I don't understand. But you're here to do more. Right? There's more mitzvahs to do. There's more light to reveal. There's a Mashiach to bring, right? Okay, so we're not done. In Ruchnias, now there is an Asher in Ruchnias, that's Moshe, 100%. And Moshe is the one who knows what's going on, and he says to the Melech, reveal this level of light and fix Malchus once and for all. Now, interesting enough, once Moshe asks that, and the Medrash tells us that, and Chassidus explains that, so now you and I also know that. We also know there's something called Atzmus Ein Sof, and that's the only level of light that ultimately has. The only. I'll use the word only in the sentence and then rephrase the sentence, even though I didn't say it once yet, but I'll rephrase it in my head. There's only one. That's the only level of light that can bring about the everlasting fixing. So that's the level of light Moshe asks for. Because Moshe, we mentioned this relative to the Rebbe. What's the Rebbe always talking about? Gula mitis v'shleima, the complete and true redemption. Gula she'ein acharei golus, the gula that has no golus after it. That's what we're looking for. We're not trying. We're obviously we want to beat Iran. That's not what we're interested in. Beating Iran will be good. It'll make things better, no question. What's that? That's Mamale. Mamale, things will be better. No question. There won't be some maniac, evil person relatively close with an atomic bomb who wants to incinerate us. That's better. That shouldn't be. That's what we're davening for, that's what we're working for, that's why we're doing Torah mitzvahs? Absolutely not. To get rid of Hamas and to get rid of Khomeini and to get rid of Nasrallah, that's nice. Baruch Hashem, we're very happy when all these evil people disappear. We say l'chaim. Okay, and then what? That's not the job. That's all mamale. What's the job? Reveal Atzmus Ein, bring about Mashiach, Geula Shein Acharei Golus, and a Band-Aid to stick your finger in the dike. We're done with sticking our finger in the dike. We're not interested anymore. Right? Because there's a hole in the dike. Because Malchus isn't complete. Does that mean there's no more Nasrallah? Baruch Hashem, Nasrallah is burning away down there, crackling, barbecuing, Baruch Hashem.